Hello and welcome everyone. This is Nitesh Mishra from Federation of Indian Export Organizations, popularly known as FIO, India's apex trade promotion organization. And you are listening to the Voice of Exports, India's first exclusive podcast for EXIM community. On this podcast, we bring top performers from the sector who not only inspire but also reinvigorate among you to become one of them.
Welcome to another episode of Voice of Exports audio podcast started by FIO for its member exporters. Today we have in our program from Adhiraj Exports, Sri Adhiraj Dutt, who is into different kind of export of products like rugs and handmade carpets. Welcome, Mr. Dutt.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra.
Going ahead, the very first question which I would like to ask you, Mr. Dutt, would be please introduce your company and how it started.
My company is a micro unit carpet export unit. In 1946, when my grandfather came to Mirzapur from, they were in Pakistan, and when they came to Delhi, and he came to Mirzapur to start the carpet industry. And then ever since then, we've been in the carpet line. So the old firm closed after my grandfather passed away, when my father started this one in my name in 1983. So ever since then, I've been working under this name. I came here in 1985 after I graduated from St. Xavier's in Calcutta, and I've been here since then, 40 years now. So we've basically got carpet experience since 1946. And our firm does, mostly we've been in the exclusive carpet line, the customized carpeting line.
Okay.
So we've worked with a lot of artists, art galleries, designers, and made small and big, made small shipments. We made large shipments. We made all kinds of carpets in different shapes and sizes, and all handmade. So we've also worked a little bit in the domestic market.
Okay.
Yeah, only for private houses and all that, never commercially.
My next question, Mr. Dutt, would be now that you have said that you are into customized kind of carpets, all handmade. So can you please elaborate on what are the countries and which are the markets which you look at, and which are your major markets in terms of carpet sales? And you are also into rugs. So please explain on that also.
Yeah, well, actually, carpets and rugs are actually almost the same. It's just there's a slight difference in the nomenclature. That's all. In some parts of the world, they call them rugs, and in some parts of the world, they call them carpets. You know, it's almost the same thing. So it's like saying that, like when you have your trousers, there are capris and there are shorts, and there are full length trousers.
Okay.
So, but they're all basically made in the same way, stitched in the same way.
Okay.
So the same thing with rugs and carpets and all. There is just a slight difference in term and which part of the world you're from. Our main markets have always been England and Scandinavia.
Okay.
But we've done a lot of work in the US and Canada before the year 2010.
Okay.
After that, our focus shifted towards Europe. So we did a lot of work with Monte Carlo also.
Great.
And our main buyers were in Sweden, Monte Carlo, and England.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you talk about the challenges, you definitely must have come across the recent times in global foreign trade business. We are facing challenges as with regard to tariff wars. We are facing challenges as with regard to trade and global supply chain disruptions. So what do you say about it, and how have you overcome these challenges?
See, firstly, Mr. Mishra, the challenges that arise in our industry, being in a place like Mirzapur and Badawi and things, we've always had a problem with R&D, with research and development.
Okay.
And we've also had a problem with getting new samples made and in different materials.
Great.
You know, because there's always been a demand that what new, what so make something new for us. What new can you do? So new we can only do is use different materials. Like firstly, it was almost always wool and cotton, the wool pile and the cotton warp. Then slowly jute came in, cotton jute pile came in. Then banana silk came in, viscose came in, silk came in. You know, so
Okay.
things like that. Problem in this part of the world has always been availability of different materials.
Okay.
So we have had a bit of a difficult time doing R&D, and especially because the government of India has never understood our industry problems. So till recently, we were not even counted as an industry.
Okay.
We were nowhere. We were not in the finance ministry. We were not in the textile ministry. We were not in the agriculture ministry. We were not in the commerce ministry. We were nowhere, you know. And at the same time, they were all dealing with us through our export promotion council. So our product was basically given a lot of stepmotherly treatment because it was a cottage industry, so labor oriented. 95% of the work is done with people, you know. And so they never treated this industry fairly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that
My
was
next
the
my
biggest.
next question is related to this, Mr. Dutt.
Hmm.
Though I'm stopping you, but it is related to this only. When you talk about R&D, what are the recommendations or the suggestions which you'd like to urge the government to take steps on?
See, the main thing was in those days that there was a problem with communications, telecommunications, which is not there now.
Okay.
Okay, and the GST regime actually made a lot of created a lot of problems for us because what happens is that our raw material comes from different parts of the country. The wool comes mostly from Rajasthan. The cotton comes from Western UP or from Madhya Pradesh and things like that. And if we have to get any R&D done, we have to get small quantities of different items like banana silk or viscose or something. We can't get large quantities. Most of the packing of these items is done in bales of 50 kilos or 100 kilos in wherever they are made. But we may require only 5 kilos or 8 kilos or 10 kilos, which is not available openly in the market over here. So to get that amount, that small quantity, we had to buy a whole 50 kilo or 100 kilo quantity just so that we can use a small amount and make samples. You understand?
Yeah.
Because the government never allowed any trader to have a kind of a shop where you can keep small quantities of items because there was always a big problem with the GST nomenclature. So that was one problem that we had, and which is, now people have managed to overcome that because a lot of the carpet people have now opened up outlets in Delhi and Bombay and all. So there is different kinds of material availability over there. So
Okay.
they buy it and they bring it here to Mirzapur or Bhadoi or whatever.
Okay.
So that
But
was the
now
biggest problem.
you talked about, Mr. That you talked about GST on carpets and floor coverings.
Yeah,
Now it has been reduced from 12% to 5%. Uh,
yeah,
it has been recently done by the GST Council
yeah,
after their recommendation. What do you think about it? How competitive you are going to be after these recommendations?
You see, the point is that for export there was basically no GST, but it was a long, cumbersome process of getting a refund. We
Okay.
had to fill up forms and about 14 or 15 different forms and provide all the invoices and this and that, and then they would process everything and have a convenience tax which you have to pay to the officers, and
Okay.
then they would process your refund application, and you would get your GST back what you have paid in the raw materials or even during shipment in the port and everything. That is also returned to us by the government. You know, the GST used to come, make a difference in the domestic sale. Because domestic sale, you had to collect the GST. Now it will help because at one time it was 12%, like you said. So
Yeah.
the carpets and daddies that we used to sell in the domestic market
Okay.
attracted a 12% GST, which
Yeah.
can be, depending on the price, can be a fairly large amount. But
Okay.
now when it's coming down to 5%, it will be much easier to persuade people to pay the price and be able probably increase domestic sales.
What
So
have been your three key learnings during your journey of exports, and how were you introduced to FIO services, and what made you seek us out?
see, my key learning has always been that even though I've been in this line for 40 years,
Okay.
you still every day you learn something new. You know,
Okay.
especially when you have an evolving industry where new materials are being tried out, new techniques of dyeing are being tried out, just so that we can try and innovate a little bit.
Okay.
You know, but because there's been a lack of knowledge over here,
Okay.
since it's a labor-oriented industry, and the majority of the people were illiterate, so or semi-literate, so it was very difficult for them to understand what we are talking about in terms of chemicals or new techniques or how to do this or how to do that.
Okay.
So that was something that we had to learn to overcome. So
Okay.
now that the younger generation has come into the villages
Hmm.
and they are involved in the trade,
Okay.
so it's easier to communicate with them because they have understood a little bit of what we are trying to tell them regarding using different materials or chemicals and things like that. So
Okay.
they have also become a little bit more savvy. The
Okay.
problem again is arising that since this industry is mostly cottage based, the weaving especially,
Hmm.
so the younger generation does not want to get involved in that. They find that it is not glamorous enough
Hmm.
and they are not earning enough
Hmm.
because it takes a long time to weave a carpet,
Hmm.
right? So they are not earning enough by the time they finish the carpet.
Hmm.
And it's not a glamorous industry where you can boast that I'm a carpet weaver or something. So there is a huge shortage of actual weavers now that has come up in this industry. You know,
Okay.
so this is one learning that I have found in the last 40 years, that things have evolved in such a way that we have to become more. Our industry has to become more flexible in terms of material procurement, in terms of weaving techniques, in terms of trying to use more machines for finishing or for doing different things.
Okay.
We have to become a bit more flexible. Only then we'll be able to survive this American tariff and the rest of it. American tariff has knocked out most of the American exporters who are selling in America.
Hmm.
They are having a tough time.
Okay.
you know Most of the shipments are held up, and there's a lot of money invested because it costs a lot to make one carpet, and then you get your payment after maybe 2 months or 3 months or 5 months, depending on your contract with the buyers.
Okay.
So so the money cycle also changes. It's not that you're getting your money instantly. You're having to wait. So you have to have deep pockets. You have to be depending on the banks to get you loans and things, which is another big problem.
Okay.
And as far as FIO is concerned,
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how I came across FIO, but I've always been interested in these chambers of commerce.
Okay.
So when I read about FIO somewhere,
Okay.
and when I saw what it was doing, and I read an article of Mr. Ajay Sahai in some magazine, you know.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I thought that this is an organization that has its pulse on the market and
Okay.
what is going on.
Okay.
So then FIO organized a few workshops in Banaras and Badoi and things like that. This was years ago, before COVID and all. And I attended one of those workshops without being a member. I was not a member then.
Okay.
But I saw what all they were doing and how enthusiastic they were, and I felt that yes, FIO is an organization that is proactive.
Okay.
They are not waiting, and they're not like, okay, we'll get back to you and things like that. So I joined. I became a member. You know, and ever since then, I've used FIO a few times to sort out problems with customs or with the with the DGFT and things like that. I've asked few to help me out, and they've also helped me out quite a lot. So that way, I appreciate FIO's efforts, and this, and plus all the programs that they run.
Okay.
They are trying to really make a difference to the export, the especially to the micro and the small units.
Okay. One last question I would like to ask you, Mr. Dutt, before we conclude our interview. Looking at the current global trends, how do you
Mhm.
see the future of India's exports, especially when a lot of things are happening? US tariffs, India's FTAs with various countries, BTAs in offing, and there are other opportunities also coming in. Then we have global chain disruptions happening. Then we have trade disruptions happening, geopolitical tensions happening. How do you see the future of India's exports?
See, overall, if you say about exports, it's a mixed bag. Okay, as you can make out even by your question,
Okay.
because the biggest problem that India is having,
Okay.
what I find, because I'm dabbling in other things also. I'm into commodities and textile and fabrics and things like that. Also, I source these items for other people and act as an agent or something like that. But our biggest problem, number one, is our price point.
Okay.
We cannot compete in many markets because our prices are too high.
Okay.
And one of the biggest contributing factors to the pricing is our port charges.
Hmm.
The charges at the port and the charges for the shipments.
Okay.
Because in most cases when people are looking for products abroad, they ask you for a CIF price
Okay.
up to a certain port, XYZ port.
Yeah.
So that CIF price, the moment it becomes a CIF price instead of just an FOB price,
Yeah.
it goes beyond the range of the buying party.
Okay.
So this is one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we are facing, and we will face as a nation, because we are not, and our government, because they want that the GDP should go up, I mean the per capita income and all should go up. So every few months they revise the minimum wage, that you cannot pay less than this or you cannot pay less than that. So therefore, our manufacturing base is becoming costlier. So it will become very difficult for us to compete
Okay.
in so much turmoil. Countries that are making things cheaper because their labor is cheaper, their credit lines are cheaper.
Okay.
They don't have such large, they don't have high bank interest rates, and it's easier for them to get bank credit
Okay.
instead of the kind of hurdles that we face over here to get bank credit, especially for micro units.
A very short question before we end this
Uh-huh.
is, could you briefly, in few lines,
Uh-huh.
summarize what kind of suggestions which you would like to give to all those exporters who would like to come into your sector of exports, carpets and rug sector?
See, carpets and rug sector, I would not. I. It's not a very encouraging outlook at the moment. But I would suggest to them that uh, you have to be a bit innovative in design and in materials.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, you have to be quick on whatever you're executing, because and you cannot depend too much on, because it's a handmade product, so people will want to buy it, because that emotional aspect is now slowly going away. Because you have to understand that the buying power now in Western countries is now slowly changing hands. It's becoming more and more concentrated on the slightly younger generation, the 30s and the 40s.
Yeah.
And those people are not that keen. We spend hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars on a carpet, whereas which they would rather spend that money on shoes or on an iPhone or traveling or getting the latest gadget,
Okay.
right? So that aspect of that I want to make we want to get into carpets and we want to make the finest rugs possible. That then your scope will be limited because your price point will be so high that you will eventually end up with a very small clientele. Okay, so basically it's your mindset that how much you want to achieve, how big an establishment you want to achieve, what kind of exports you want to achieve. That is your mindset. So what niche you want to find yourself in.
Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Mr. Dutt, for being so candid and being so open in your responses to the questions which I have asked you.
Voice of Exports podcast by FIO aims to provide important information and views on foreign trade, especially on exports, which will help both Indian exporters and importers. Any statements made by an exporter, importer, or an importing company in this podcast as guests reflect the views and opinions of that individual or the company. This podcast does not constitute an endorsement by the FIO of the individual or the company, his or her or its employer or affiliated entity. The specific information or views provided, resources mentioned, or products or services endorsed or offered by that individual or the company, his or her or its employer or affiliated entity. FIO assumes no responsibility for the accuracy, completeness, or timelines of the information provided by the guest or the company in this podcast, or for the decisions made and reliance on any information provided by the guest or the company in this podcast. We thank you for listening to this episode of Voice of Exports podcast service brought to you by the FIO. For more information on how you can start exporting, please visit our website www.fio.org.